last year, many said one of the favorite parts of the weekend was hearing from our emerging leaders. We have all of these talented young leaders here, and we want you to have a chance to hear what they have to say. So I'm going to introduce the moderator of the panel, and then she will introduce the panelists. 2 years ago, there was a young lady who attended on scholarship when we did the conference here in Beaver Creek during the middle of the pandemic, Haley Supergan. She had just graduated from Creighton University, where she was a chapter leader in the Turning Point USA chapter at Creighton. And we got to know Haley as she joined our Emerging Leaders Council after that. A little over a year ago, we hired her to be a development associate, and this summer she got a nice big raise and promotion to Director of Development. That's the kind of talent we have, and we're looking to hire more of these young leaders. So keep that in mind if you know some young person looking for a really exciting career opportunity. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome one of our star young leaders, Haley Supergan.
Take your passion and make it happen.
Hello? There he is. Hi, everyone. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. Like Jennifer said, I've been on the team for a little over a year now, so it's just wonderful to be a part of everything that the Steamboat Institute is doing. I'm actually going to interrupt our regularly scheduled program with a quick commercial break for the leadership program of the Rockies. So for those of you who aren't familiar with this program, it is based here in Colorado, and they are expanding to more states. They also have a program in Connecticut that is working to build an army for freedom, where the attendees learn to defend capitalism and understand the proper role of government. It is a 9-month program where you learn tangible skills to move the needle in the right direction. These are skills that our co-founders, Jennifer, Schubert Aiken, and Rick Aiken, learned when they attended the leadership program of the Rockies, and then later earned their Leaders in Action Award in 2013. So this program really works. The applications for the 2023 class are due on August 31st, and you can find them at leadershipprogram.org. And there are tons of graduates in this room right now, including myself, who would love to tell you more about this program if you're interested. And that concludes our commercial break. So now, I am very excited to introduce our next panel, the Spotlight on Our Next Generation of Leaders. DOMINE CLEMONS, Gabriel Elbert, HENDRIX, and Heidi Thom are all members of the Steamboat Institute's Emerging Leaders Council. Our network of young professionals, we can't talk about them enough. They truly are just an incredible group of people. The moderator of this panel is Cody Wisniewski. He is a senior attorney for constitutional litigation at Firearms Policy Coalition. He also is regularly published in the Daily Wire, National Review, The Federalist, so I encourage you to read his work and see what he's doing. He is a recent graduate of our Emerging Leaders Council and is now a member of our Emerging Leaders Alumni Board. So they were so moved by this program that they've been a part of that they've, on their own fruition, formed an alumni board so they could keep up the hard work and be involved with the Steamboat Institute still. So I'm super excited to welcome them all to the stage, and Cody is going to introduce each of our panelists.
Take your passion and make it happen. You just come alive, you can dance right through your
Hello. Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it. As Haley mentioned, or as Jennifer mentioned, this panel in particular was a hit for last year, so I'm hoping to keep that going. So even if I'm not funny or charming or entertaining, just laugh for me so that I can hold on to this at the end of the day. One of the things that's amazing about this panel is the young people that are on stage with me and what they do and the different topics that they cover, what they've already done in their careers. So instead of having them introduce themselves, I had them submit bios because as a young person, well, I was formerly as a young person, it's just like that, perfect. One of the hardest things to do is write a bio about yourself. What do you include? What do you talk about? What are your accomplishments? And then inevitably, if you introduce yourself, you underplay what you've done and underplay your accomplishments. So I'm going to read their bios for them, so you're going to have to bear with me. But I want you to see just how much they've accomplished. And everybody on this stage is under 30. Everyone else on this stage is under 30 years old. So DOMINE CLEMONS is a passionate advocate for free market economics, school choice, and limited government. She's no stranger to education policy, being published as early as in high school. DOMINE is currently the Government Relations Manager at Optima Ed and is a member of Steamboat Institute's Emerging Leaders Council. She previously served as Vice President of Operations at Florida Citizens Alliance, and she also interned in Washington, D.C. at the Department of Education in the office of the Secretary Betsy DeVos. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Heidi Thom, to her right, is a native of Montana, growing up in Billings and attending college at Whitworth University in Spokane, Washington, where she earned degrees in marketing and graphic design. She previously interned at the Heritage Foundation and worked at Young America's Foundation as a program assistant. Heidi went on to staff Representative Greg Gianforte in the 116th Congress. Ms. Thom currently lives in Washington, D.C., and works as a policy staffer in the U.S. House of Representatives. Heidi is also a member of the Steamboat Institute's Emerging Leaders Council and is attending her second annual Freedom Conference. She is passionate about advancing social conservative policies and restoring the American family with a specific interest in social and pro-life policy issues. So thank you, Heidi, for being here. Catherine Cat, as she's lovingly known, HENDRIX, is a proud Colorado native and has spent her career working with students, schools, and their families. Kat is currently the National Alumni Affairs Director for ACE Scholarships and has leveraged her many talents and creativity into the formation of the program. Kat attended Colorado Christian University and is an alumna of the leadership program of the Rockies, as well as serving on the Emerging Leaders Council. I feel like that's a theme. I could probably just skip that. Before starting at ACE, Kat spent 5 years with Parents Challenge, serving as the parent coordinator, was a site director for the Boys and Girls Club, a Senate intern for Senator Cory Gardner, and a congressional intern for Ken Buck. So thank you, Kat. And last but certainly not least is Gabriel Elbert. He is an engineer in the aerospace and defense industry. He's a member of the Emerging Leaders Council and is attending his third annual Freedom Conference. Gabriel previously served as an advisor to the organization at Young Americans Against Socialism and is a graduate of the leadership program of the Rockies, where he was awarded their Defenders of Capitalism title and is now a member of the LPR Advisory Council. He received his Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering from the University of Colorado Boulder in 2018, Go Buffs. Gabriel is passionate about strong national defense policy, economics, capitalism, and constraining government to its proper role. So thank you, Gabriel, for being here. So again, thank you all for bearing with me while you just sit and listen to me read, but I was just so impressed when I had to cut information out. Their bios were like half a page of an email long with like attached links and sources for support. But I just think it's so impressive how much they've already done and how much they've already accomplished in their young careers. And hopefully we can dig into some stuff and we can give some advice to other young people and talk about your interests. So DOMINE, let's jump in with you. Would you just tell us how did you get introduced to the Steamboat Institute and what prompted you to get involved?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I would just like to thank Jennifer and Rick and the board members at Steamboat Institute and all of the wonderful sponsors who allow us to be here. We are so thankful. So thank you. How amazing is this conference? So this is my fourth conference with the Steamboat Institute, and I heard of the Steamboat Institute because I was a student at Hillsdale College. They sent out an email, and it immediately piqued my interest. And the first Steamboat conference, and really all of them, I've learned so much, gained so much perspective, gained so many new friends, and just we have developed such an amazing network here that I go to so many conferences in the education sphere, and I have never had so many great young people to surround myself with. So I'm very thankful for that. And also one of my favorite parts about these conferences is bringing people from both sides of the aisle and having a robust conversation, which is very rare anymore. So I'm very thankful to be here. Thank you.
Heidi, same question. How'd you get introduced to Steamboat, and why'd you choose to get involved?
Yeah, so actually, I found out last summer, pretty last minute, actually, Lindsay Martin, who's also a graduate from ELC program, she posted it on, I think it was the Heritage Alumni internship Facebook page, and it just sounded interesting, and I applied. I didn't know anyone here last year when I came, and it's been great getting to know everyone and become part of this wonderful group. But yeah, that's basically what happened, and since it's been really a great honor to be part of ELC and everything they're doing, so yeah.
All right, same question about this. No, I heard about Steamboat through Haley and Cody. As my bio said, I went through the leadership program at the Rockies, and so they went through the class in 2020. Cody was one. There we go, 2021. And so there was a group of them who had just came back from the Freedom Conference, and they spoke so highly of the program and just the experience that they had. And so I was like, I need to be a part of that. And so last year was my first conference. It was an amazing experience. Honestly, being able to not only just meet the ELC members, but just meet those who are in attendance, and just hearing your stories, your lives, why you love this country is so, it's just refreshing to hear. And it just it helps me know I'm on the right path. So very honored to be here today, and thanks for having us.
Hey everybody, so this is, as Cody said, my third conference that I've been attending. Like Kat and Cody, also a graduate of the leadership program of the Rockies, class of 2020, and that was really my first foray into the conservative movement and political activism. The tools that I learned through LPR really set me down this path. I'm kind of weird from the standpoint that I love going to conferences. I love political events like this, so it's like vacation for me. It's great to be surrounded with so many like-minded people, who are passionate about preserving the ideals of the American founding. So I after graduate LPR, had heard of another conference that was coming up, and so I was like, hey, Cody, let's drive up to Steamboat, or to Beaver Creek, rather. And I think Cody was here for work. And then I was introduced to Haley Supergan and the rest of the team here, and I've been here ever since. So yeah, just looking forward to the rest of the day and getting to meet all of you. So thank you.
All right, so let's dig into your work a little bit. So DOMINE, you are at Optima Ed. Will you tell us a little bit about what you do and then what you do for education policy?
Absolutely. So Optima Ed, we are a charter management organization. We open and run Hillsdale Barney charter schools in the state of Florida. We have 5 schools there. We also just launched the first virtual reality school in the world. And we did that because our charter schools, they are based on a classical model. We don't have technology in the classrooms at all until COVID hit. And all of a sudden, we had to bring in technology overnight. And we realized that a checkerboard of screens, the Zoom school, just wasn't cutting it for students. And so in the past year, we've been really dedicated to creating a gold standard for online education. And we've seen such a rise in demand for quality education solutions for parents across the country. And that includes those charter schools. However, we cannot build them fast enough. It takes 2 years to build them, and these parents needed a better option yesterday. So the virtual reality school allows us to bring students in, allow them to have access to quality education, to be immersed. They actually get to be face-to-face with a live teacher, and they get to say hello to their classmates just like we are here, and have a very immersive classical education in the meantime while we're building these brick and mortar schools. So I am just so glad to be part of an innovative solution surrounded by like-minded conservatives and working in the education realm. I became interested in education policy because I am a product of the public school education system, and was able to kind of compare that when my family, we lived overseas in Portugal for a year in high school. And that really opened my eyes to the freedoms that we take for granted here, And upon returning to the United States, I was being taught in a honors U.S. government class that socialism is good, capitalism is evil, Margaret Sanger is an American hero, and on and on. Free healthcare is something we should be advocating for, yet I was the only person in that classroom who had actually experienced it. And so since then, doing my research on the past 50 years of education reform in America, and that has really opened my eyes to the issues we see in education, such as critical race theory, social emotional learning. All of that really drives my passion for education. And I just see these little babies, these little kids going to school, they're sponges, they want to learn, and yet we're filling them with indoctrination. And at the same time, they still can't read, and they still can't do math at grade level, and that just breaks my heart. So they deserve better, and that's why I do what I do.
So Heidi, will you tell us a little bit about your experience both getting to the Hill and working on the Hill as a young person?
Yeah, so I also had, kind of like Gabriel, I had like a different route getting into politics. I originally went to college as an art major, believe it or not, and I did graphic design. And halfway through, I realized it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, so I doubled in business as well, since I thought that was a pretty versatile degree. It wasn't until halfway through college, beginning of my junior year, that I got thrown into the political sphere. It was during the 2016 election, very contentious year. I started a pro-life college, a pro-life club on my college, and I went to a small Christian university. I didn't think it was that controversial to do at the time. But believe it or not, it was, and immediately there was pushback from not only students but professors, from a lot of people, and it made me really think not just about the pro-life issue, but all of the political issues, and like just grounding me in searching for my worldview and my ideology and how I thought about the world. So that's how I got thrust into the political sphere, and since then I went to all the political conferences I could to learn and to be involved. And then after college, I got the opportunity to go intern at Heritage Foundation, which I would not be in DC today if it wasn't for that opportunity. And that's basically how I came to DC. But since then, it's been a lot, like learning how DC works and how politics and power and what draws people to DC. I think of it, there's two reasons people come to DC. They either have the ideological reasons that most people start out with, I'd say, or they come there for the power, the prestige, and the personal advancement. And people fall anywhere in between these two reasons. And just learning about everything in DC and how politics and everything, how it all works, has been very interesting, and yeah, it's been a process, so yeah.
And so, Kat, you are the National Alumni Affairs Director for ACE Scholarships. Will you tell us a little bit about that, and how did you get involved with ACE Scholarships, and what do you do to advance the movement?
I love that. I love talking about ACE. So ACE is a nonprofit organization where we provide tuition to low-income students to attend private schools K-12. And we are currently, now we have just advanced, we are into 2 more states. We're in 10 total now. And the program was started 22 years ago under the guiding principle that your zip code and your income should not determine whether or not you get a quality education, period. And so, and that parents, shocker, are pretty well equipped to determine what their children need and what they should be doing and handling. Also a shocker there. Wow, parents know their kids. And so that's why ACE was started. I work on the alumni side, so I get to work with the students after they graduate high school. And over the last year of building this program, one thing became inevitably clear to me is that they need resources. Just like I feel like seniors in high school are also like kindergartners. They just want to learn so much. They're like sponges, but so you just got to give them those resources. So we're looking to provide them with professional development, connect them with our donor base and other community leaders and organizations that are able to pour into them and share all the things that you just don't know until you know. On the side, we are a 501c3, so on that angle, but going through LPR, being a part of Steamboat, I couldn't help myself but to throw in one of our professional development sessions is the proper role of government. And so just slide that in there because again, these are the future. They are the future. They are going to be our doctors, our lawyers, our politicians. And we need to get back to a place where they actually love America. They understand like the responsibility of freedom and just how beautiful freedom truly is. So that's what we're working on the alumni side and to grow them as they go off and so that we have more leaders across the country in every industry because the families we serve are so resilient and so humble and they fight every day because they believe in education. So we just want to continue to help them with that fight.
Gabriel, you have a bit of a unique experience up here because, as we mentioned before, you don't work, your day job isn't in the movement, quote unquote. But you're also one of the most involved people that I know working to advance values and working to protect what our country was founded upon. So could you tell us a little bit about how you balance your kind of private work with your more public involvement, the public side of your life, and how you leverage what you do privately in the public sphere as well?
Sure, yeah. So as you'll see on my bio, an engineer in the aerospace defense industry, not working professionally in the movement, but still having a hand in contributing to America's national defense, which I think is a very important thing, especially with and very on point too, very timely with our talk with Secretary Pompeo yesterday. The threat of China is real, and I should also state, to satisfy the legal department, that any views expressed up here are mine alone and not of my employers. But yeah, so I am involved. I've worked on some nonprofit projects at Young Americans Against Socialism. I did that for about a year, and this is all stuff that I do outside of work. And so I want to give a word of advice to young people out there who are considering going into politics full time, or maybe staying or going to a nonprofit or deciding to go into a private industry. There's room for you in the movement. There's always something to be done. You don't necessarily have to make it your living, but you can be a passion project too. So that's one of the things that I've been able to do. Again, with LPR and Steamboat, just amazing opportunities. And I like to have like a well-balanced approach to the things that I'm involved in. So with Steamboat, talking about and discussing with thought leaders across the country, and they've built out this network where I'm able to have these experiences and advance the cause of liberty, getting writing opportunities, things like that, podcasting opportunities. So very grateful for the opportunities that Steamboat has provided. And then with work, it's being able to like actually contribute on a daily basis to the defense of liberty and maintaining our national sovereignty. So yeah, that's kind of my approach to it.
Just walking off on a strong national defense, yeah, that's kind of my approach. Just so I'll remind you all, make sure you're submitting questions. I already see fantastic ones rolling in. Some of these are actually pretty difficult, so this is going to be fun for me. I'm used to, in my day job, having judges just kind of yell at me from a bench, and there's nothing I could do about it. So now you guys get to experience it, so you're welcome. But before we get to those, some other questions. Let's go backwards this time. So we'll start off with Gabriel. There's a lot of young people in the audience who want to get involved. There's a lot of people in the audience who want to see their kids or their grandkids or their nieces or their nephews get involved and to defend what our country was founded upon. So Gabriel, if you could give, and we'll cruise through on this one, but if you could give any one piece of advice to a young person who's looking to get involved and looking to make a difference, what would that be?
Be patient. I've had to exercise a lot of patience in working a full-time job and trying to be involved outside of work. And I was thinking, I was considering at one point, just within the past year, of possibly jumping ship and leaving my industry and making a complete career change. Looking back now, I think that would have been a very rash decision. So my advice is just be patient. You'll find your niche, you'll find what you want to be involved in. It may not be your full-time career, but you'll have a part to play in preserving liberty.
My advice would be to listen. Like, if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So I pride myself on not being the smartest person, so I always have a good time. But listen, listen to those who are trying to pour into you, because they're not saying it because they like to hear themselves talk, even though they might, but they're sharing that wisdom with you so that you can be better, because if you don't understand the history, you're doomed to repeat it. So just listen. Go.
Well, I would say to be grounded in what you believe, and it goes in the same words of patience. Because sometimes you'll see something that's maybe the faster track route to where you want to be, but it might not be where you fit, or you just don't feel like you belong there. So just stay grounded in what you believe and your values and principles, because those are things that should lead you and kind of just put you in the direction you need to go. So.
Seek out mentorship. That's what I would say. I think mentorship is so important, and I've been blessed to have some really great mentors, and I've had people ask me, young people, how did you find your mentor? Well, that's something that comes with time, and typically it's an organic connection that you have with somebody. And in the meantime, you can read. So if you wish that, somebody who lived in the past, or maybe somebody who's a celebrity could be your mentor, read their books, read their biographies. And in the meantime, start speaking about it and put it out there that you're looking for a mentor. I think that's just so valuable.
I think I'm going to take some of these pieces of advice myself when I get home, so that I can maybe continue to advance my own career. One thing that we've all struggled with, or many of us have struggled with, is criticism from our peers, right? We're going through a college system. I went to college in Canada, which was a very different experience. You spent some time in Portugal. How do you deal with criticism from your peers based on the views that you hold, the positions that you take, what you do for a living, and how do you deal with that, and how do you keep marching on? So we'll just zigzag. Dominique, if you want to kick us off.
All right, well, I don't have a huge problem with this. I'm one of 10. I have 9 siblings. So there's lots of discussions, lots of persuasion, trying to get your way. And then I was blessed to go to Hillsdale College. And, when I hear horror stories from other students at various universities, I'm just so blessed to have been there. But I think you just have to speak the truth, and you just have to say it with conviction. And most of the time, people are followers, and they will just agree. And if you're not going to say, if you're not going to speak on your values, somebody else louder will start speaking on theirs. And so I just, speak the truth. I preach about education constantly and how important it is. And when you focus on finding common ground with people, that we should be protecting our children, we should protect their innocence, find common ground, and then stick to your principles, and people will respect that.
Oh boy, yeah, this is, I dealt with this a lot in college, especially like halfway through college getting political. Some people would joke Heidi got political overnight. But so I did lose a lot of friends. But something that made me realize is they were never my true friends to begin with, if they couldn't respect me for my beliefs and me standing up for what I believed in. So that was part of it. You're just going to lose friends, and you have to be okay with it. Because, like I said, they weren't true friends to begin with. But, yeah, I think it's just a process, especially when you're young, to go through. But just stick to your guns, and you'll find real friends. So.
So I was raised to speak with intention, so I'm not allowed to say anything without having a reason for it. So in that vein, I got very comfortable recognizing the fact that I'm not for everybody, and I have no desire to be for everybody. And if you don't like what I have to say, if you don't like what I'm about, you are welcome to walk past me. Trust me, it does not hurt my feelings. Because again, I don't say anything without a reason, which means the things that I believe in, what I choose to share, there's a reason for it, and not everybody gets the reason, and that's okay.
So this is something I've had to deal with more recently after college. I was blessed to kind of skirt under the radar during college and not have been accosted by those who had opposing views from me. But so I'd say in the last 3 years, particularly with the last two elections, presidential elections, it's been tough sometimes. And one of the things that I like to do is take an approach about having like an honest civil discussion, because I think it's very important that we maintain that skill today in today's day and age. So I try to reduce whatever argument it might be or criticism. Find out why this person opposes a particular viewpoint or something that you said, and boil it down to a core principle, and kind of get them to challenge their own premises and maybe, hopefully, find common ground. That's usually been my approach to it, and I think I've saved and actually salvaged and rebuilt friendships that I thought I had lost over political views when. It was really just a miscommunication. They didn't see where I was coming from. I didn't necessarily see where they were coming from until we had a discussion about it. So boil it down to the core principle and then find common ground.
All right, so we've got some good questions from the audience. You guys are already kind of heading off some of them, so you're doing great. Keep it up. One is, what do you think is the most important issue facing our society today? And I'm going to limit it to in your industry. And now I get to be hard, and I get to say, and what are you going to do about it? What are you going to work towards to start solving that issue as the next generation of leaders?
Education. That's the industry that I'm in, and I truly believe that education is where we can restore our country or where we can lose it. And we see this, we've seen parents wake up the past couple years, school board races, getting involved, and it really happened because of COVID, seeing behind the curtain of the curriculum, seeing what is being taught in our public schools and private schools, and more importantly, what's not being taught. They are not teaching our kids about this country, why so many people have put their lives on the line for this country. And so I truly believe, and it's not just education, in our K through 12 schools, it's higher education, education in our military. I mean, any, industry that we look at, and you look at professional development, whatever they're teaching is really what is going to determine our policies and how our next generation moves forward. So I am just totally focused on K through 12 education because these are innocent children who don't understand that they are being brainwashed and taught with a political agenda.
Yeah, going off of that, I would say it's education, but a step more is people, they don't know why they think something. They don't explore I've always been a Democrat, I've always been a Republican, but they don't think deeper about the issues sometimes. So yes, education and a real grounding in who you are and what you believe. For me, I'm a Christian, and all my beliefs come from my Christian faith. But whoever you are and wherever you believe, you have to have that grounding. There's a really good Mike Pence quote that says, I am a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican, and in that order. And I think about what he was getting at with that is, I have a foundation where all these other beliefs and principles come from. So I think we need to instill that in education so when people grow up and they are asked these hard questions, they are able to look back on how they their foundation and their beliefs. So, yeah.
I'm also going to say education. But also on top of education is that I think right now what we're seeing within the schools more than anything is that kids are not being taught how to think, they're being told what to think. And so it's more of an attack on individualism. And everybody's trying to group you together. You're a group, you're a group, you're a group, and here's what your group believes. And so based upon that, people forget how to think for themselves. And that's the point of school, you're supposed to learn how to think. And so I think more than anything, like the education piece, as well as getting the curriculum back to where it needs to be, but also just encouraging students to be individuals, to not group kids together and actually give them an opportunity to develop and to create an original thought.
You said the biggest threat, Cody?
Yes, sir.
China is the biggest threat, okay? China. And not to belabor the point too much, but and you asked, what am I doing about it? Well, if I told you what I was doing about it, I'd have to kill you. So
I will say there are some technical questions in here about like weapons development that I have no idea, but I'm also just slightly afraid to ask because I know that there was Secret Service in the room at least yesterday.
Right.
I don't need to be on another watch list.
So obviously I'm working to help curb the threat of communist China and the rest of our adversaries professionally. And that's about all I can say. Outside of work, it's being involved with groups like Steamboat, where I'm able to express my opinions. They give me an avenue and a platform to do so, and so that way I can be an inspiration and I can educate other young people about the principles of the American founding and free market capitalism. So that's really what I'm all about.
All right, we're gonna get a couple rapid fire questions in. So you guys have about 30 seconds, and I will cut you off. I'm using my judicial power now. I'll find a gavel. Rick will get me one. So how do you anticipate that the liberty movement will change over the next 10 years? What do you think is going to be the biggest difference? What is going to be unrecognizable about the movement in 10 years? Gabriel, do you want to start?
Sure. In 10 years, honestly, the youth of the movement. I think for a long time there have been a lot of mainstays and thought leaders that the conservative liberty movement really started in the 1950s. And so a lot of the people have already passed on. So we're starting to see the second and third generations of young, conservative, liberty-minded thought leaders come up. So I think the movement's going to get younger. I think that's a good thing because peer-to-peer influence is really, really valuable in educating these ideas. So the hope lies with young people.
I also believe that in 10 years in the future, the liberty movement is going to be transformed, and the youth are going to, again, re-embrace American values, American founding, and they're going to crave protecting freedom.
Yeah, I agree with the younger generation is coming and getting more involved, and Gen Z is getting involved in a way that I feel like young people haven't before. I do think we will have a resurgence of conservatism and values. In my mind, the pendulum swings throughout history, and we get to the point where we're so extreme and all this crazy woke nonsense going on. Like, people are rational. People will come and when we really think about it, these aren't rational, like Senator Daines was saying, these aren't rational people. And I think that we'll have a resurgence of conservatism.
It's a tough question. My hope is that churches will start getting involved and that they stop, letting politics kind of take its course, and churches have really kind of taken a step back from that. They don't want to be political. They don't want to lose their 501c3 status. my hope and what I have seen with pastors, especially across Florida, is that they are starting to get involved and understand that there is an assault on our children, on our country, and if they don't take a stand, who else is going to? The church is where we find truth. It's where we find a true foundation, and I think that is so needed for kids and our youth to come back to conservative values.
So for those of you in the audience that have listened to the Steamboat Institute's podcast, the Liberty Chats podcast, you will know, and if you haven't, now is the opportunity for you to subscribe and follow along. But you'll know that we end the podcast with a question of, what does liberty mean to you? So I think it's fun when we get to ask the question as the host of the podcast and hear what people who have been in the movement for a long time have to say. But what does liberty mean to you guys? Give me like 20 seconds.
Okay. To me, liberty is the freedom to self-govern. It is the freedom to live the American dream. And one of my favorite quotes that's at the bottom of all of my emails is, "Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty." I truly believe that, and I think it's every single one of our duties to become vigilant and to teach the next generation what liberty is. And so I would leave you with one action item. I'm sure all of you know a student in your life. Ask them this question: what does liberty mean to you? And as a product of the public education system, I think the one thing that really saved me was every day my mom asking me, "What did you learn today?" Having a conversation and realizing that what I was learning at school wasn't necessarily what I was learning at home. So have those conversations. Don't be afraid, and ask your kids, your grandkids, what does liberty mean to them?
That was definitely more than 20 seconds, but I couldn't bring myself to cut you off, so. Heidi.
All right, to me, liberty means the freedom to make your own mistakes. The whole point of communism and socialism and everything is they don't want you to make your own decisions. And human nature, we have to grow, make mistakes, and learn. It's part of being human. It's how you grow. And you like your kids. So like when you have kids, you want to protect them as much as possible, but the only way they're going to grow and learn is if they go out into the world and make their own mistakes. So that's what liberty means to me.
Liberty for me means that I can be an individual. I can possess my own thoughts, my own creativity, and live the way that I want to live without without it breaking rules, or without having to be in a box. I hate boxes. So liberty means I get to live a box-free life.
Considering I just moved, Kat, a box-free life would be really nice for me right now. So what does liberty mean to me? Human flourishing. To be free is to be human. Regimes around the globe that crush humanity, that prevent their citizens from being free, that's so wrong. And so I'm very blessed to live in a country, to have been born here to an immigrant parent that appreciates, the society that we have appreciates being an individual, being free, and allowing me to pursue my own endeavors, right? It's that pursuit of happiness that it's really at the core of the issue for me, so.
So, moderator's privilege, I'm going to steal the last word, because I want to say that the Emerging Leaders Council has been an amazing experience. I have since graduated because I am a former young person and no longer qualified, but we weren't happy with that. Those of us that were aging out is such a rough term. Moving on to another stage. Emerge. We've emerged.
We've emerged.
Yes, yes. We wanted to stay involved, and so we created the Emerging Leaders Council Alumni Board, and it wasn't enough for us to just stay involved in some way. So we are looking to specifically provide mentorship as we can to the ELC members. We're looking to stay working with Steamboat, to stay supporting them. Rick and Jennifer have been absolutely amazing in all of our lives. You know, in personal story, Rick has been a mentor, has talked me through a recent job change when I was bouncing off the walls, freaking out about what to do with my life, my first major career change as a professional. Jennifer has provided us and me with amazing opportunities, including the Steamboat love story, where I have met my current girlfriend because of Steamboat. So thanks for that especially. But it's been so amazing. So on the alumni board with us, I think we have Carl in the back, if you'll wave. Lindsay is flying around somewhere, making sure everything runs smoothly. And it wasn't enough for us just to stay involved. So we are also all now Steamboat donors. And Jennifer doesn't know that I'm about to tell her this, but since we're at the conference, since I am officially on the alumni board, my first official donation to the Steamboat Institute is coming your way today. It has just been an amazing opportunity. I love being able to give my work and my effort, but what money I can give as well, I'm so happy to do, because I see that it goes to such an amazing opportunity for people. So thank you everybody who makes that possible. Thank you for coming up with us.